Hello, I'm nahshondion, and you're watching Transbrations. Today's special guest is a trailblazer. Diamondstylz has been one of the long-standing voices of the millennial Black trans community. For a decade, she has used social media platforms like YouTube to archive trans people and events around the globe. Currently, Diamond is the executive director of blacktranswomeninc, a national nonprofit that is led by Black trans women focused on social advocacy, positive visibility, and building strong leadership among Black trans advocates, activists, and our allies. Diamond is also the host and producer of Marshasplate, a weekly podcast that explores politics and pop culture from a trans pro-Black feminist lens. Marshasplate recently hit 1 million all-time listens. Diamond, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Going back to that film is called Intentionally Erased. Screen debut for our film Intentionally Erased went amazing last night. Room was packed, question and answer was great. My dream's always been to create content around Black trans experience without compromising my integrity. But I rarely have resources. But hey, here we are.
As a film producer, now you're here. You hear me? As a film producer.
Oh, thank you so much. And you also said, check out the trailer if y'all want to see it in your city. Share, support, comment on the video where you're from. We are planning a tour to show it now. Intentionally Erased is a documentary film called to end the violence against Black trans women, correct?
Yes.
Could you briefly discuss the importance of the film and the dangers of trans folks being erased?
I think it's cutting edge, because when have you seen a film that orchestrates a conversation between Black trans women and Black cishet men? I haven't seen that before. And men being honest, telling their real opinions and in front of us and us responding back. And I think it's just cutting edge. We don't see these kind of conversations because people are not invested in the lives of trans women in the way that, you know, it may be in some other situation. And so the fact that somebody was able to give us the resources to be able to do it, I think is powerful. I think we have amazing conversations that get to the core of toxic masculinity and the core of accepting people for who they are.
I think in the clip, there was one of the Black gentlemen had mentioned, he said, you know, it was just something, matter of fact, he said it was always just something in the background. Yes. You know, the whole trans thing, it wasn't something that he, you know, it was just something in the background. And it is in the background for a lot of them. You know, yes. It's that distant, they're that removed from it. My grandfather, Milton Lee Ratcliffe, who was from Beaumont, Texas, he was transvestite. Pardon me?
I said, come on, Beaumont.
Hey, Beaumont, how y'all doing? So he was transvestite. He was bisexual. He never had married my grandmother. My grandmother's heart was broken because he wouldn't marry her or whatever, but he was transvestite, bisexual, had a white lover at one point or whatever. I was told that I looked like him a little bit or whatever. And, you know, my grandmother had some issues with me. But then my brother, Milton Lee, he passed in 2020 during the pandemic. He had a trans girlfriend at one point. You know, he was showing us her pictures and stuff. Her name was Demonica, right? Like, like, first of all, who's gonna name themselves Demonica? But Demonica ended up being a real bitch. You said what?
I said, is this real bitches in negative or real bitches in real?
I would just say real bitch just across the board. And I met her on a few occasions in LA. And I remember one time was at the Catch One, and she had this photography book, and she was just like, showing me pictures of
Catch One.
The Catch One, right?
That's
she was showing me pictures. It is. She was showing me pictures of her and my brother, just like, you know, hugged up or whatever. You know, I told her how I was and stuff, and I wasn't, you know, looking like this, but I was still femme. I can't erase this face. But she was just like, oh, you a girl? And the way she said it to me was just like, oh, another girl. And I was like, this bitch. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, Demonica had called my grandparents, my grandma's house. It was like, your son is gay. We've been writing checks, you know, blah, 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 some other messy stuff. And, you know, it was just like, we just thought she was like an ugly woman. Mm-hmm. We just thought she was an ugly woman. And it was like, okay, that's your girlfriend. Like, that's the best you could do. But it just stayed with us over the years and stuff. And it's something I still talk about and stuff because, you know, it was just like, you know, my grandfather, then my brother, you know, obviously me, you know, for some people, it works family.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah. I think there's an element.
Yeah. So, the importance of the film and the dangers of transgender, is it still touring or is it gonna, what's the deal with the schedule?
It's gonna start.
It hasn't started yet.
It hasn't started yet.
Tell me this, how can people host a screening?
You can email acalltomen and they will put you on the list to be able to do that.
Today is International Day for Elimination of Violence Against Women. We shed light on rise of anti-trans violence, which affects trans women of color the most. According to HRC, at least 19 Black trans women have lost lives to violence this year. We know that Trans Day of Remembrance was on November the 20th. What did you do to honor, what did you do that day? Did you do anything special to honor the 32 we've lost?
So I don't celebrate T-Door. I
Mhm.
think that's for people who, I think new activists, I think it's for people new to our experience. I celebrate trans people every day of the year. I reverence trans people every day of the year. So I don't celebrate in that way. I also have shifted my politics in a way. I only want to celebrate trans joy in the sense of, yes, when it comes to us dying and stuff, I want to give that information. But when it comes to events that I go to and events that I do and create, I want it to be centering trans joy. It doesn't mean that we don't give trans people reverence who have passed during maybe our talks, but I like to center our joy. What I did for Trans Day of Remembrance, we actually got our mayor here in Houston to turn that week into Black Trans Empowerment Week. We got the proclamation last year. And so that week is when we do a week-long celebration with Mahogany Project. Mahogany Project is an organization here in Houston. And one of the events that I host is called the Dear Marsha. And it's basically all trans and queer people coming together to show their talents, whether it be music, spoken word. It's like a talent show for queer and trans people. I host it. It was a beautiful thing. Tons of voguing, tons of singing, tons of just queer fun and happiness. And that is how I like to celebrate trans people and revere them. And I just wanted to revolve it all around trans joy and not just standing in front of Mike saying names and having candles lit. And
Right.
I just don't do that anymore.
No, that's understandable.
Ms. Marsha, let me talk to you real quick. Thank you for what you did. I understand the white men were crazy back then. Please let me, I know. They still crazy right now. They let a 17-year-old go free even though he killed 2 people back down. I understand it's crazy. But Marsha, let me ask you one thing. How did you manage to deal with your mental health with all the insanity that went through your head? Because I ain't got no pills and I'm not on hormones yet, but I understand when I get on T, I'm gonna be angry as a bull, but I don't wanna be mad. So what can I do? Can you tell me what you did and how it made it so easy for you? Because I know it wasn't that easy, but you made it look so easy with the grace of your steps. So can I ask you, Ms. Marsha, from one trans guy to a trans woman, can I make a difference?
Tomorrow's coming too fast. I'm so scared that I'm hit the dash, wondering where the cash at, wondering where the bags at, looking at my cash app. I'm past that, though we've been making money off me. 'Cause I can seem to take the time it takes to see my prices take control of me. I'm still in recovery. But losing still is fun.
When I think of home, I think of a place where there's love overflowing. I wish I was home, I wish I was back there with the things I've been knowing. When night makes the tall grass bend into leaves.
My life is stable now, but I can't say it's good because every week we have trans women of color being murdered. We are being slaughtered like pigs in this culture of hate. We are being slaughtered like pigs in this culture of hate. And so with that comment, I want you to kind of talk about consulting with Insider on trans murders and the ongoing violence in our community. How did you get connected with the Insider?
So the Insider contacted our organization, and they had seen the work that I had done with Hulu. They had seen the work that I had done with Stanford University, and they just had looked at a lot of stuff that I had done. And so they interviewed me for the position, and they loved my insight. They loved everything. I knew so much, and I had already been doing the research, finding out investigation things that they had not even heard about. And so I was already doing this work. It was started by me and Monicaroberts. Monica has a more I have a storyteller spirit, so I can connect the dots and make it relatable. Monica is about numbers. And so she could remember dates. She could remember so many political things in regards to that. So bringing our brains together really helped me create a database that was about the history of trans people, particularly murders and particularly just iconic moments. We are Houston-based Black trans activists. We are internet personalities, journalists, and organizers. And because we are Houston-based, we have created a conglomerate of us together, and we're friends.
And we also sit on the board of Black Trans Advocacy Coalition, which is based in Dallas.
Yes, and our particular arm of that coalition is blacktranswomeninc.
You know, because historically we've had in this community, ever since Christine Jorgensen stepped off that flight in '53, a focus on white trans folks. And the organizing has also been centered around our white, trans siblings. That's not necessarily good for our community as a whole, because we do have different issues and different needs. There is a difference between a transition for Black trans folks as opposed to our Latinx counterparts and our white counterparts.
Patricia Hill Collins calls it the matrix of domination. So we are at different places under different pressures of these isms like racism, sexism, classism, colorism. All of those things create a space where we're more vulnerable than other people may be.
The reality is that when you're trans, the question becomes, will it be gifted to us, meaning that we're gonna die, or will it be taken from us, which is meaning that we're gonna be murdered?
Even while we are mourning, we can't even get a break because every couple of weeks, one of our sisters are dying. And, we're in a country that says that not caring about the least of us is okay. And the numbers could be skewed because there's some people who are being murdered around the country who are being reported as men.
There is this problem of misgendering the folks who are being killed. So why we harp on, police departments getting it right is because we don't know everybody's dead name in the community.
That it's not just trans women that are being murdered. It's trans men too. And it's our trans siblings, because some of them didn't identify within the binary.
I think Malaysia's death resonated because we have that video of her being viciously beaten that literally a month before she died.
I think that the fact that it went viral gave people a chance to kind of connect with Malaysia, if that makes any sense.
We should have a chance to live. We should have a chance to thrive. Isn't that what the American dream is based on?
Yeah, and when you think about Malaysia, for example, she was just 22. I'm 57 right now. What kind of things would Malaysia have been able to accomplish, much less all of these girls we've lost, if they had been able to live to my age? That person that is now gone could have had the next great business idea, or could have come up with the cure for cancer, or been one of our next great leaders, or or just done something groundbreaking, but they're no longer here to be able to do that.
And so when I showed them what I had collected and it aligned with what they were already doing, it was a done deal. They said, you got to do this for us. And so they paid me to be the editorial consultant for the position. And it is the largest database that I have ever seen done when it comes to the deepest dive that I've ever seen done around trans people in regards to our murders. It not only gives you information about the victim and how they were killed, it also gives you information about the suspect and the outcome of the cases. Did they get convicted? Did they get a plea deal? Did they get off? All these kind of things. And we found so much information and data collecting in this database. And it's one of the current joys of my life that I was a part of this, because it's information that we need.
It's very rare that I get to work on a project that teaches me something about the trans disparity, but this is one of those projects that expose so much data that I didn't know and confirm so much I did. Grateful to be a part of this powerful project that could be used for years to come.
Yes, that's exactly how I feel. I think I learned so much. I learned about, so one thing that I already knew being a Black trans woman myself is that most people like to pretend like we're out here tricking people, but it's usually people who can murder us is people who know that we're trans. It's people, intimate partners, and not necessarily love, but sometimes it'll be clients. Sometimes it'll be our family. There were tons of family who has murdered us in this database. 6 connected to 6 serial killers that have murdered us. 2 mass shooting victims were trans men. So many things that I kind of already knew, but then what I didn't know, I know racism was going to come in because it's mostly dark-skinned Black trans women that I murdered. So I know there has to be a racial aspect. What I learned is that when it comes to conviction, you are more likely to get a conviction if the victim is a white trans person. Like all the cases where it was a white victim, they got convicted, but a Black victim, it was a lot of them that didn't get convicted and got off. Another element that I found out, that if it was, mostly men are killing us, right? Mm-hmm. But if you take the men out and just look at the women who killed us, mm-hmm. it was mostly white women. A few Latinx people, no Black women.
Really?
Yeah. So Black women ain't out here killing trans women when it comes to murdering us. And a lot of them got off for self-defense, no matter if the evidence pointed that direction or not. Most of the guys were younger. Most of the victims were younger too. Most of them were under 28. Most of the guys were younger too. It wasn't older men. It was younger.
No, it's usually younger. It's usually younger. It happens to the younger population.
Mm-hmm.
How long did you work on this project for, Diamond?
Since July till we released it in the end of November, but still 17th. Yes, and it's just so much information. So police negligence. There was one girl who they couldn't figure out if the guy knew her because they broke her phone. The police broke her phone and couldn't get into her phone to be able to see if the person who killed her engaged with her.
Have any folks shared with you what they've learned?
That's how I got on the interview with Melissa Harris Perry. She read it and was amazed. And that's how I got interviewed with her.
Oh, okay. And what's going to happen with all of this data?
So hopefully, my hope is it debunks some of the myths around why we get murdered.
Okay.
It shines a light on how much socioeconomic factors play into us being exposed to domestic violence, exposed to intimate partner violence. There was a situation where a girl had got attacked by police. So she was suing the police on some police brutality, but then her boyfriend started beating her ass. So where do you go? If your boyfriend is beating my ass, I can't go to the police because I'm suing them. So he ended up murdering her. Her boyfriend ended up murdering her. So, and because she didn't have any other place to go, because of her socioeconomic status, it put her in a situation where she was more vulnerable. And so shining the light on that, also shining on the light on the camaraderie that is needed between cis women and trans women. Like, we are all out here getting killed by the same type of men, these toxic masculine men, and we need to be in community with each other and not thinking that we are so different just because you can have babies in a period, that we are not vulnerable to the same acts of violence, because Black women also hold some of the highest rates of intimate partner violence as well.
When I started out earlier and I was talking about Texas and my family and gun violence, I had two great grandmothers who were shot and killed in the 1920s and 1930s by their husbands. One was shot 7 times, Zephyr Smith Scott. And, you know, as a young child to hear that story about my great grandmother, you know, it's just, I mean, my grandfather lived with that. That was his mom, but who wants to have that memory of a child hearing that story? So
Yeah.
for me, it's been with me as a child.
Personal.
The domestic violence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
And so
go ahead.
those are the things that I learned, and and the things I want people to take. Also, information, so you can write grants and get funding to fix these problems that we see when it comes to discrimination against housing, discrimination against healthcare, discrimination against workforce discrimination. Yes, we have finally got the protection in June of 2020 to get to be a part of the 1964 Anti-Discrimination Act, Civil Rights Act. Yes, we got that protection, but that doesn't change the culture. How are we changing this culture and getting trans people actual survival mechanisms to change their life?
Mhm. In a video posted online, you had broke down why violence against Black trans women is a civil rights issue. I think that was maybe a year or 2 years ago. It was very recent. And you had said that all oppression is connected.
Yes.
Stonewall was about rebelling against police brutality.
Yeah.
We all have this arm of white supremacy that's up against us. And one person had commented, no. Why do you believe some refuse to see continued unwarranted violence against us as a civil rights issue?
People willingly are ignorant. Like, there's information out here. There are people telling their stories. Just like the police were attacking somebody in Stonewall, they do the same basis of that happening is the same basis of Rodney King happening. It's the same thing happening with Ahmaud Arbery, yes, to George Floyd, to what's her name? Breonna Taylor. So many names that we can.
Sandra Bland.
So many names. Tony McDade. So many names that we can name in regards to police brutality. You have to understand that these are all connected. When it comes to us being locked up at higher rates, Black trans women are locked in regards to our demographic. We're locked up at a higher rate than our white trans counterparts. Just like men, just like black men, just like Black
all
women.
Oppression is connected. Stonewall was about rebelling against police brutality. We all have that in common. We have this arm of white supremacy that is up against us. Hi, my name is diamondstylz, and this is a word. Why violence against Black trans women is a civil rights issue. I am the culmination of red, velvety, country Mississippi women and a queer community of gay men and lesbians that showed me how to survive through scarcity, that showed me how to find the joy in all of this silly oppression. I was the first Black trans woman to attend Jackson State University in Mississippi, and they put me in a male's dorm. But what they didn't know is that they were exposing me to violence. People were trying to throw boiling water on me. Any place that I was trying to be a normal person, there was a risk of violence, risks of sexual assault, a risk of anything. We can't even get a break because every couple of weeks, one of our sisters are dying. The people who are killing us are the men who we are engaging with. Because we are Black trans women, we engage with Black men. Just like white trans women, they engage with white men. Because of our lack of economic, social mobility, we don't have certain protections to keep us safe as other girls. We don't have the resources to get the surgeries that makes us a little bit more passable. I think that every community has a level of transphobia in it. When it comes to Black men, it's so many levels to why men uphold patriarchy. And for me, I think we are just a casualty of that. They're scared, they're fearful, they're so policed in so many different ways that when they lash out, when they haven't worked through the trauma, when they haven't worked through their exploration, when they don't have anybody to talk about this without being judged, usually we are the ones who have to be the therapist, has to be the experimentation, have to be the person there who gets the negative. And sometimes when it's somebody who is traumatized and trying to deal with this stuff and explore these things, we're usually the casualty.
No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace!
At least with cis women, there is a buffer. They're not being saved. They're not being saved, but there is a moral buffer that says you are not supposed to beat your woman. But with a trans woman, that is taken away because you have chosen to totally denounce your malehood. Everything that comes to you, you deserve. It's so many Black trans women out here doing amazing work. So we have the amazing people on Pose, you know, the producers, the directors, the actors who are doing this image activism, allowing a trans character, a trans person to come into people's homes on television and connect to their stories. But then there's people on the ground with my organization, Black Trans Women's Inc. We're just creating programs to help more directly Black trans people. Recently, the NAACP voted and passed a resolution that said they want to make us a priority in protecting us. This is the NAACP. Now, have they rolled out any policies? I don't know, but they did take the step in publicly saying and voting and passing this resolution that said that they want to center Black trans folks. And I really appreciate that. I think it's a great direction to be going into. The resolution is to be more empathetic, understand the resource that you have in regards to what we can show you of how to get us off and under this oppression, and understand that the oppression that we are going through is connected to everything else. When we talk about decriminalizing sex work, when we're talking about poverty and housing, if you're centering us and you're building programs to solve those problems, I think we're an amazing resource, and I think they're sleeping on us.
From my experience, I believe that people tend to think that gay men or feminine gay men or trans have it easier in life. I believe that masculine men, masculine Black men tend to look at us and think that we have it easier, and it's actually quite the opposite.
And the numbers show that. So, but the problem is people love to play oppression Olympics instead of, look, who cares? We are all being oppressed by this. It doesn't matter who are oppressed more. in right. The case of us battling the same thing. Right. When I think about Roe versus Wade, I have no dog in that fight. I can't have a baby, I can't get pregnant, but I know why that's important for me to be an ally to cis women and trans men and non-binary people who can actually birth a child. Why I need to be an active ally for them is because I know if they go after the agency of your body, that they will go after the agency of mine.
Correct.
We have to be in the same. I know that if they stop me from being on the sports team, if they stop me from getting health care, they will do the same. They have done and will do the same thing to you. Yeah. I know that if they gerrymander and do all these tricks and bullshit about not stopping voter suppression, I know if they do that in your county, they will do it in mine. If they do it in Georgia, they will do it in Texas. If they do it in Arizona, if they do it in Pennsylvania, all these swing states, Nevada, if they do the shady shit there, I know they will do it here.
Diamond, you sound like you're ready to march.
Look, that is I have to be passionate about it because I believe this is my principle. This is my ethic. I believe that all oppression is connected. When George Floyd, a cishet man, probably hated trans women. I don't know. I'm saying that he did, but maybe he probably had some disgusting ideas about trans people. But I know that regardless of cishet men hating us and being the bane of our fucking existence, I know that when I see them unfairly being shot by the police, that is wrong.
That is
and
wrong.
I'm still
That
gonna
is wrong.
march.
That is wrong.
I'm still gonna march. And I know that they probably wouldn't do the same thing for me.
That is true.
But I
they do not and they will not.
But I cannot let my own morals, my own passion about what I believe in this world,
right,
be undermined by what the fuck you would do. Because if that's the case, I would be doing nothing. I would be, because we don't have that many allies. And so I have to care. And I think other people should too.
They should. I'm from Pasadena, California. Rodney King's father and my father were fishing buddies when they were fishing buddies and stuff. But in 1991, me and my mother, we were living behind Rodney King's mother. And when all of that happened, I remember it was a Sunday, I woke up to some noises and drama that I had never heard before. I had a front row seat to the impact of what happened to him. And as a child, I didn't really, I knew he was physically hurt, wasn't even thinking, long-term and emotional and stuff, or even how it would affect, the community years later and stuff. But, no one was really asking young people, well, how did you feel about your neighbor, your family friend? How did you feel about this, and all this? But I don't, and one of his brothers was a mentor. Had I not known him and his family, and they're like family, had I not had a connection to him and his family, I don't know if I would feel, I would, it's wrong and everything, but I don't know if I would feel the way I feel about it, and so strongly about it. And that's, I don't talk that much about it and say stuff or whatever. I don't go to marches and protests and stuff. It's been something that I've, seen affect my community for 30 years. So all of this is not new. Sandra Bland.
Like I said, through Sandy Speaks, we are going to open up a door, open up a gateway for the kids. What I would like you all to do, if you've got kids, and it doesn't even have to be just for the kids, some things they may not be able to comment on, but now would be the perfect time, if you feel like your child is too young, to kind of start opening the door to them and educating them on interacting with police. I don't think it's ever too early, in all honesty, because the way that our kids are growing nowadays, I got a 2-year-old niece that you would think she'd been here before. Our kids are so smart. They are getting smarter. Technology is getting better. So why not educate them on interacting with the people who are really important to our survival? And I think through this, we can also show them a real look at how they're viewed by a group of people who have no reason to have a skewed point of view. A child can't determine, they can only know how to feel about cops based off of how they see cops acting. So this is going to be the chance. And if you're a cop out there and you're watching this, here's your chance to say something and educate these kids. Because again, my whole point, my whole motive, what I want, and I feel like what everybody should want, is for our kids to know better. There's no reason why our kids know more about the latest social media trends than what's more important to their own history and survival and just everyday basics. So yeah, Sandy Speaks. Sandy is speaking, and again, I do apologize. And if I'm looking a little crazy, this is because this is a test. It's time, y'all. It's time. This thing that I'm holding in my hand, this telephone, this camera, it is quite powerful. Social media is powerful. We can do something with this. If we want to change, we can really, truly make it happen. We sit out here and talk about, oh, we need the next so-and-so and this and that. No, you don't. No, you don't. Start in your own home. Start with you. You start being that person to want to make that change. So it's funny. Whoever is watching this, you might hear I'm probably going to get a few of the Michael Jackson, oh, I want to make that change comment. But laugh all you want to. Say what you want. but I'm here to change history. I am ready to do what I need to do for this next generation. It's time for me to do it's time for me to do God's work at the end of the day, because he and I know everybody don't believe in God, which is fine, but I want you to know on Sandy Speaks, I'm going to talk about God, because for me, he has truly opened my eyes and shown me that there's something out there that we can do. We can stop sitting around and just saying, oh, well, maybe next time. Or, oh, well, we knew that was going to happen. It's time to stop knowing that was going to happen. And it's time to start doing something. So, I'm finna go to bed, but I just want everybody who watches this to know that I truly thank God for you. I thank God for you taking your time to watch this video. And I'd like to plant the seed in you. There will be more of these to come. There will be more Sandy Speaks. And I want y'all's feedback. I need you. I need y'all's help. You know, I can't do this by myself. I need you. So, you know, email. It's crazy. I should know how to make a YouTube channel, but I don't. So I'll probably be getting with somebody soon to figure that out. But in the meantime, in between time, you can comment below the video. Tell me what you think. Definitely, please. I would love to hear responses from your kids. And, you know, just general responses to whatever you feel like they need to hear about the news. It doesn't matter what.
Garner. What is her name? The one who was in the home, the medic? I forgot. Started with a B.
Breonna Taylor.
Breonna Taylor.
Bianca Hill, trans woman killed by the police in in Kansas City.
You know, none of it is new. So it's like, it's, you know, different people, different cities, different states, different circumstances. And it's just like, you know, to keep hearing it over and over, and to the degree, you know, that it is now, a person can only, you have to take a step back from it. You know, it's not, you can't be immersed in it. And I'm just talking about me personally, you know?
I think that is self-care. I think
it's total self-care. Because you could end up, yeah, it's self-care.
It's self-care. I think that I don't think everybody is a marcher. I don't think everybody needs to march. I go marches. That's me. I can do that. I don't think that's everybody. A perfect example of that is Toni Morrison. She's one of my favorite authors. Okay. And she says, I'm not a person that could go out and march. But you know what I did? I brought I was an editor at Random House. I'm not talking about me. She talked about Toni. Toni said, I'm an editor at Random House. So I bring Angela Davis to come in and write her autobiography on my publishing company. I bring
Baraka.
Her. I bring Muhammad Ali to come. So this is what I can do to help the movement move forward. And so I think as long as you know, as long as you don't give up, I think if you need a break and you need to rest, yes. But as long as you don't give up and do it your way, this right here, Transbrations, is your way. Do you see what I'm saying? This is your way of adding to the culture of, we need to move this conversation forward. Let me share these people with you. Everybody has their different way. So don't feel like, I don't want people to feel guilty if they can't show up in the way that some marching activist does. You do it in your way. You need to show up in where you have circles of power.
And where you're
comfortable. Yeah. And so, because I totally get it. Sometimes I got to take a break. Sometimes I got to stop. Sometimes I got to do something else. And it's okay. And that's okay to shift.
It is okay. What would you say to a young person who is starting to understand the harmful effects of multiple forms of oppression? What kind of advice would you give them to continue to move forward in life without that paralyzing them? You know, with all the stuff that's going on. Right?
You have to find your tribe. You have to find your community. You have to find people that support you, that will tell you, hey, you need a break, go sit down, that can give you resources to help you survive. That you have to find a tribe. I will not be here without a community of people helping me survive. I'm not talking about, oh, everybody is going to be on your side. No, I'm talking about a handful of people that love you, that you can be yourself with, that is there and willing to figure it out with you. You have to find your tribe, because you're not going to survive anything without that. I had a tribe.
I've lost so many people in the past couple of years. My mother and aunt, my son, Monicaroberts, Jahara, Nikita Slade, friends to COVID, friends to violence. As someone who knows I thrive when my care is based on my community and support system of people who love me, these losses have all been quite overwhelming. I'm still here. I'm grateful for that. Trying to stay grateful, patiently waiting for the sun. I know it'll come. It may be slow like molasses, but still sweet too.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking about support. How do you cope? How have you coped with all of these losses and the pandemic and the social injustice? How are you taking care of yourself? Who's taking care of you?
My tribe, my community, my trans sisters, my cisgender sisters. That definitely has been a shift in my life. I have way more cisgender sisters as close friends than I had before. Mm-hmm. Even some men like Tony Porter and cishet men who really have stepped up and just become a part of my tribe and become a part of my support system. I'm in a position where I am a little privileged. I work for myself, so I can't be fired for being trans anymore. Work for myself. I don't make a lot of money, but I make about, above average. Enough to take care of myself. And so I'm able to travel.
Enough to be a queen.
Enough to travel like a queen. I just came back from the Maldives.
I saw those pictures. Yes, I saw those pictures.
Yeah. I know how to take a break and go. I have enough resources and enough, flexibility that when something is going wrong, I can actually go and handle my business. Let me give you a perfect example of this type of support. If my mother would have died any other time, it would have been very, very difficult for me to go to Indianapolis and take care of her funeral needs, because she didn't have any final arrangements. And so, but because she died at the end of 2020, first of all, 2020 was the best year for me in regards to finances. I never made as much money. It was the first time that I didn't make six figures this year either. Yeah. But that year, it was the first time that I had ever made six figures.
All right.
Ever. And so in that year, my mom dies right at the end of it. And so in December the 18th, right before Christmas, like it was just a crazy time. Mm-hmm. And so I had enough money to be able to bury my mother, not bury her, to give her a funeral service in Indiana, stay in Indiana for a month because COVID had funerals backed up.
Restriction. Mm-hmm.
Funerals were backed up. So I had to stay to bury my mom and have a service for her. I had to stay I flew into Indianapolis the 18th, and I had to stay there and this is during the holiday. So I'm doing expensive ass flight because it's in the middle of holiday, late in December, going to there. Now I got to buy a hotel, and all the hotels are booked. And if they're not booked, it's expensive as hell. Mm. And so I was able to, without harming my stability, to afford to not only send my mother away, pay for people's tickets who loved my mom that needed to come to Indianapolis, pay for hotel, pay for my brother's suit, pay for just what was needed for that. And it did not harm me. I could go back to Texas and still can pay my rent, still can pay my light, still can pay. If that would have happened any other time in my life, I would have been devastated because I still would have made the money. I probably would have had to been escorting in Indianapolis just to try to I would have hustled, been on the literally the street hole stroll to get my mama stuff together right. I know I would have been doing that, and it would have harmed me, but I'm in such a blessed and privileged position that not only was my organization able to cover some costs, other organizations that love me and care for me was able to cover some costs. Like, most of the stuff either didn't come out of my pocket, or it was they had work for me when I came back, or something like that. It was I'm in a position where resources. I was in a situation where
critical resources
where I am privileged and being taken care of by my tribe. There are people who love me.
Yes. So Monicaroberts is a pillar of our organization and has been a part of our family from our beginning. Her passing is devastating news. Please keep Monica's soul, friends, and family in your prayers that they all may find comfort and peace. We love you, Monica, fly high angel. With her passing, and your mother and Nikita and Jahira and friends and your son, people in the community, what are you doing to keep their memories alive?
Gosh. I have an altar for all of my folks. I have their pictures up around my house. I have Monica's legacy. I make sure I share anything that she has done that's relevant to conversations. I make sure that she says that. I make sure that I remind people that all these news and journalists that are not misgendering trans people using the right pronouns, it's because of Monicaroberts. She fought for that. She fought for that respect. Some of the history that we uncovered, she scoured through Ebony archives to find specific trans stuff that she had on Trans Griot. So make sure I share that.
And tonight we are remembering one of the most powerful voices for transgender rights, not only in Houston, but nationally.
That's right. Monicaroberts died on Monday, and Houston police are telling us she died after a medical emergency. Fox 26's Maria Salazar live tonight after speaking with one of her closest friends. Maria.
That's right. I spoke to diamondstylz. She met Monicaroberts more than a decade ago at a conference in North Carolina, and then the two women found out they were both from Houston. Diamond describes her as a civil and human rights icon, a mentor, and a dear friend.
I think that she wanted to live in a world where trans people had equal access to everything that any human being would need to be happy.
It's a loss diamondstylz struggles to put into words.
We're losing a mother of our community. We're losing somebody, a champion, a warrior.
Monicaroberts died Monday. The 58-year-old Houstonian became known around the world for her blog Trans Griot, documenting the killings of transgender people who were often misgendered by official reports. Telling the Daily Beast last year, quote, "I got tired of them being disrespected in death."
She was a pillar. She was a journalist that set a standard of covering trans news in a way that we hadn't seen before, with a certain level of honor.
Diamond says Monica's fight for trans rights began in the 90s, holding conferences across the country, including in Kentucky and Texas. The women met at a conference more than a decade ago. They began working together to create trans-centric media content.
And so her legacy for me is to set that standard of trans care within the media, within journalism.
They were close friends, often traveling, breaking bread, and laughing together.
Type of person that if you're talking to her, she's gonna laugh before if she's trying to make a joke, she's gonna laugh before she even gets to the punchline.
Monica's life work won her many awards. It took her to D.C. and state capitals to lobby for trans rights. She served as one of the original members of Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner's LGBTQ advisory board. Diamond also notes Monica's ability to empathize with other groups.
As a Black trans woman, she had the lens to be able to look all around and relate to any story that reminded her of the Black trans experience.
And when I asked Diamond how Monica would have liked others to remember her, Diamond said she would have liked all people to vote. Reporting live from home, Maria Salazar, Fox 26 News.
Jahira was in our database, making sure her story is, because she was murdered during that time that we covered, making sure I share her story. She literally was killed by a man who it wasn't even her boyfriend. It was somebody who she was given a place to stay, their violent boyfriend. She was killed by her man, a cis woman that she was helping out. And so those type of things, I keep them alive by making sure their name is relevant in the work that I do. And so my gay son, understanding drugs. He died of a fentanyl overdose as well.
What was his name?
Just like my mom, Brandon Centurino, just like my mom. And so I just went to, in Puerto Rico, a harm reduction conference so I can learn more about doing harm reduction around drug addiction, so I can dismantle some of the biases within myself so it doesn't come in my work. And so this is how I keep the people that I love and what affected them, their legacy. I make sure that I involve the lessons that I learned about their life in my work.
Okay. Tell us about Marsha's Plate podcast.
Oh gosh, this is my baby. We made 5 years in October. We made 5 years, and in September we hit more than 1 million listens. And it's a podcast that, like you said in my bio in the introduction, that is really just about talking about culture and events that are happening from a Black, trans, feminist, pro-Black lens. And so I started it because in 2017, the idea came in 2016 because, during the primaries of 2016 election where Trump won, and during the primaries before he won, it was Bernie and Hillary and all that kind of stuff. Every time that the Democrats talked about transness, it was about the bathroom. It was about
there's so much more to us than just the bathroom.
That's not even
the half of it.
Not nowhere near the half. That is such a drop in the bucket. I'm a trans woman that's been living my life forever. I can just go to a bathroom, and I ain't never had no issues in the bathroom. One time in college. But bathrooms really is that I want housing. I want healthcare. There are way bigger issues that we gotta talk about. But every time they put the mic in front of a white trans woman's face, she was talking about fucking bathrooms.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
And so I have a different experience than a white trans woman. And so I wanted to, since we're in this amazing time of the internet, where I can have my own platform, I created a space, and Marsha's Plate was that space. We named it after Marsha P. Johnson. And we said Marsha's Plate, it was a play on two things, Marsha P. Johnson, and the album that was out at the time that was really popular was Solange's A Seat at the Table. Yeah, so Marsha's Plate, this is our plate that we're bringing to the table of the political conversation. And the theme was a cookout. It's 3 trans people that are on the show. And so each one of us every week bring a subject that we want to talk about without telling the other 3. So the conversation can be spontaneous and unplanned. And so the person, whoever brings the subject, we do the research, and we bring the research and present it like a food, like a potluck. And we bring it to the cookout, our plate, and we talk about it. And so every week we come together and record on Sunday, and each one of us bring a topic and we discuss it. And we ask a question in the hopes to uncover opinions, education, some truths about trans people's lives and opinion. And then not just about transness, it's about gender, it's about rape culture, it's about race, it's about whatever is popping. We even talked about Beyonce. This past episode we talked about Wednesday Addams, because I watched that over the weekend.
I was gonna ask you that. Okay.
Yeah, Wednesday Addams has been a feminist icon for me since I was younger. And because she's always been a character that had a feminist politic. And so I talked about it in that kind of deep way. And that's how we examine culture every week on the show. And we've been doing it for 5 years, and I love it. And so,
and some of your episodes have discussed fat Black supremacy, male agenda. T.S. Madison's been on there. Toxic femininity and bottom growth. Is that in reference to a butt growing, or is that?
No, that's in reference to, remember, it's not just trans women on the show, it's trans men. And when trans men get on testosterone, their private parts grow to look like a penis. Bottom growth, and they call it the bottom growth.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Don't put that in.
It's so interesting when we laugh at stuff that makes us uncomfortable, because when you started talking about your mother, her death, and you talk about go to the hostel, I laughed and I was like, okay, but that wasn't an appropriate time to laugh. But we actually do laugh at stuff at times when it's not making us uncomfortable. It's like, why?
You didn't know it. It's new information.
Yeah. I didn't know that. So bottom growth, flaws and disabilities, and now you say that everybody can't come to the cookout.
No.
Who wouldn't be invited to the cookout?
And I say that because you know how as soon as a white person know how to dance or a white person know how to sing, they love to say, "Oh, they're invited to the cookout." No, just because you're white, you're not invited to the cookout. No, I believe that as Black people, we need some spaces to ourselves, and that's what I believe.
And your who are your co-hosts? What are their names?
Mia Mix and LJ.
And LJ, aka Jonathan.
Yes, aka Jonathan.
All Houston-based digital strategists, Black feminists, civil rights advocates, and obviously Black trans people.
Yes, me and when we started the show, it was me, Z, and Mia, and we were all Houston-based. But Jonathan came on last December, and he is actually Seattle-based.
Oh, okay, okay. You had said it's our anniversary. Last month, we hit 1 million all-time listens. Thank you. Thanks to you sharing and listening to our podcast. You've been supporting this journey, exploring trans culture, news, and experience. We hope to continue to entertain and educate. If you're just finding us, where you've been, we're a trans podcast that covers current events, politics, and news from a pro-Black feminist lens.
Yeah.
And what is you mentioned what your last episode was about. Do you have your next episode lined up?
No, we don't know what we're going to talk about until we record.
Oh, you did just say that.
Yeah.
Spontaneous. You did just say that.
Just so we can have spontaneous conversations.
I like that.
I know what I'm going to talk about, but I don't know what they're going to talk about.
What they're going to bring to the table.
Yeah.
Got you. And what was your most memorable episode?
Oh gosh. Oh, when Z brought his father on to interview his homophobic father. We brought him to my house, and he came, and we had an amazing conversation with him. And Z brought me to help him do the interview because he knew his father was going to try to throw in the religion card. But I know the Bible front and back. You can't play with me with the Bible.
Church of God in Christ.
Church of God in Christ, baby. Yeah, let's go. And so you hear on the show us going back and forth. And a little thing that I did in the show is when he misgenders Z, I put an annoying little laser sound instead of him being able to say his name, his girl name, his dead name. Every time he used it, I put a laser sound. And why I did that was because so our audience can hear every time we are being disrespected in this conversation. So you can hear how much it happens where you may not pay attention, but this is how much, if he has to engage with his father, this is how much it happens in his life. And he's trying to love his father.
When was this episode?
Oh God, I don't remember. We've been 5 years. I don't remember exactly, but it's called Z's father.
Z's father?
Yeah, it brings up featuring Z's father. It's somewhere in the.
So I keep hearing conversations about Black women being less feminine than other races, and I wanted to chime in from the perspective of a Black trans woman. You stated in this video that you feel like Neo and Bruce Lee is far and having to defend yourself. What is femininity on your own terms?
That statement was revolved around this conversation that they're having about femininity and masculinity and all these patriarchal rules around how to be a woman, and they're not even talking about in the trans sense. They're talking about cis women, and we know that based on racism and ideas of patriarchy, that's people love to masculinize Black women. And so as a trans woman coming into a space that was assigned male at birth, of course, we coming into this space being judged way more harshly about our appearance. And so I said that I'm no longer going to invest in trying to be feminine. whatever the feminine that I give you is what you're gonna get. However it fails, however it succeeds, however whatever level it is, this is what I'm gonna be, because I'm feminine to me. I'm feminine as I need to be. I'm a woman regardless if I have short hair, if I have long hair, however I bring it, that's how it's going to be. And these are my standards of femininity. I don't care what some man thinks or what some church thinks or what some other trans person thinks. I am who I am, and this is how I'm going to show up. And that gave me a level of freedom. And yeah, I'm not going to try to be something that I'm not. I'm not going to try to be more just of what you think is feminine or what you think is whatever. I'm not doing that. I'm doing me.
It was a brief clip, and I'll share it with the audience. It was perfect, and I liked how I like how you expressed it, the context of it. It was just perfect. Thank you. Yeah, so I'll definitely share the clip in this.
So as a person of a multitude of marginalized identities, I do not have the luxury of frolicking through life. I have the constant, unyielding task of reducing my harm when it comes to oppression. Oppression based in gender, oppression based in race, oppression based in class. Because of the frequencies of those harms, I have to be defensive. I got to become Neo and bend back and Bruce Leroy, blocking pew, 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 pew. This immaculate being in defending myself. That practice, that centuries of practice of self-advocacy that has been passed down generation after generation and after generation and has landed on me. Self-advocacy that has not only protected me from racially based violence, but also gender-based violence and religious-based violence. That can come off brass, it can come off harsh, it can come off in a way that y'all have deemed masculine for a woman to be. I don't even have access to the femininity that you want me to be. Even when I perform that femininity at its highest level, a perfect acceptable pitch, I still do not get the access to the bounty of social capita that other women get that are not on the same level or depth of oppression that I am. It doesn't benefit me that much. I'm still out here getting murdered, still broke, still not respected. And so while my great-great-great-grandmother tried so hard to fit into that, decades later, coming down to me, I am not invested in that anymore. Luckily, my ancestors have laid a foundation to where I am not having to invest in those respectability politics as much. I refuse to be on a hamster wheel of chasing femininity. Refuse. I'm feminine to me. Whatever that femininity is, however it falls short of y'all version of femininity, I'm feminine to me. There's going to be some times when I align with the gender norms, and there's going to be some times when I don't. This is what I have accepted for myself. Just like y'all have accepted however this world has morphed y'all. As long as it's comfortable for me, that is all I am going to be striving for, my comfort, not yours. And I think that that is the power of transgender people as possibility models, because we can be examples of breaking free from those boxes. Now, what degree that the trans person breaks from those boxes may vary. But I think in general, you know, us taking the stand in our own life and taking the reins by transitioning gives freedom to other people to do the same in their lives.
So the U.S. Trans Survey, I saw you had posted something online about that, and I think I took it several years ago. I did it several years ago. I went ahead and did it again, and it was long as fuck. Why is it important? Why is it important? What would you say to encourage people to participate in the U.S. Trans Survey, USTS?
I think it gives more information and data. We've used that data so much to tell our story and to be able to get resources, to be able to let people know some of our disparity. And so it's important for us to have a voice, because they keep pushing us out of the census. So we're not able to actually get direct services from the government because we're not actually in the census. You know that, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so because we're not actually in the census, we are being lumped in.
LGBT, nothing regarding sexuality or gender identity is, right?
Because of same-sex marriage, they have put something in for them.
Okay, but not for
for trans specifically.
And in 2015, the U.S. Transgender Survey, it was the largest survey ever devoted to lives and experiences of us transgender people. 27,715 respondents across the United States. And they're saying that the 2020 U.S. Trans Survey aims to be even larger.
Yes, hopefully.
It provides an updated, expanded view of experiences of transgender people across a wide range of areas: education, employment, family life, health, housing, and interactions with police and prisons.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And it's long, but take the time. Just take I don't know how long it took you to take it, but it's long. But they need information. They want information so we can be able to share it with programs and things to help us. That's how we get funding.
It provides critical tools for researchers, policymakers, and advocates seeking to better understand the needs of transgender people and to find ways to improve our lives.
And we need it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That database shows it. Our live shows it. Conversations that me and you just shared about our history in survival and trying to work and do our thing. We need more resources and help in all aspects.
We do. Life-sustaining resources.
Life-sustaining, tangible.
Yes, yes. And so,
hey, what's up? This is your girl Diamond. So I am the executive director of blacktranswomeninc and the host and producer of Marshasplate podcast. And I am coming to ask y'all to pledge to take the U.S. Trans Survey. As we know, with the Orange Cheeto guy, we were pushed out of the census. We were pushed out of the U.S. collecting data in regards to our experience. And we know it's really, really important for us to have honest data collection around our trans experience living here in the U.S. And I think if we dedicate to taking the survey and sharing our experience, we can actually craft honest narratives about what's going on within our culture and our communities within the U.S. So come on, you can visit www.ustranssurvey.org and pledge to take the survey. Yeah, I love y'all. Treat each other good. Treat yourself good. Love on yourself, love on your community, and yeah, have a wonderful day.
We're living, during a lot of chaos, uncertainty, extreme violence, gun violence, and racial animosity. What specific advice would you give to a young person, a young Black person, LGBT person, regarding their safety, their mental health? What would you do? What would you say to them for someone who's having a hard time struggling emotionally, or maybe worried about their physical safety?
So if you are poor, I would say don't be ashamed of what you have to do to eat. Don't be ashamed of what you have to do to have a roof over your head. This world will put you in situations where you got to do what you got to do. Don't be ashamed. Don't let that hold on your spirit that make you think you're a nasty person or make you think you are a bad person. You are doing what you have to do to survive because this world is not giving us anything. And so if you are a poor person just out here struggling, doing your thing, keep going. Don't give up. Do whatever if you got to write checks, if you got to sell your ass, you got to sell your dick, if you got to stunt, whatever you got to do, don't feel guilty because this world is not handing us shit. So if you poor
Diamond,
and surviving.
Is snatching purses okay?
Whatever. Listen, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I wouldn't snatch nobody's purse, but if you go to Walmart and steal a bunch of shit and sell it, boom. If you go to Target and steal a bunch of shit, I'm all about stealing from the corporations. I'm not gonna steal no old lady purse. That's lame. I think that's tight. But if you doing your thing where you stealing from these rich corporations, I think
I'm gonna definitely be editing this.
Yeah, do what you got to do. And so, but if you are somebody in a position where you have a little bit of resources, and you are stable, and you're not in that kind of hustle ground as a person in poverty, get you some therapy, girl. Get you some therapy. If you need some kind of medication, where it's some ADD or antidepressant, whatever it is, get on some medication. Therapy, medication, your home that you create, your home. This is your space that you own, that you have the power to take care of. Make your home reflect you, reflect what you love, reflect who you are, reflect your beauty, don't be having a bunch of crazy stuff on the wall that don't reflect you. Create your space in however you can that reflects the love of you, the care of you, that makes you feel good about yourself. That's where you control. We can't control everything on the outside world. No. We don't know who might come up to us and call us some name or whatever, but in your house, everything in your house, it needs to reflect the love of you and your beauty. Don't be having, if you a dark-skinned girl, don't be having all kind of light-skinned bitches on your fucking wall. You need to make sure you have...
Tear that shit down.
You know what I'm saying? And it's not saying that you can't appreciate a light-skinned woman's beauty, but make sure your place reflects the love of you and who you are. Trans people, queer people, whatever. Make sure you have make sure you do that. I'm trying to think of things that I did myself. I made my home reflect who I was. I got some therapy. I got ADHD, so I got on some Stratata, some what's it called? The one Stratera. And
are you serious? Is it Stratera?
I think it's Stratera.
I didn't know. I don't know any medications for that.
Wow. Yeah, ADHD. So yeah, Stratera. I think it's better. I think it's what it is. But yeah,
as long as it ain't Katrina.
And so that's what I did, and cut off people. If I give people probably like 3 chances, depending on how far it is. Sometimes it's 1. But if we're not vibing, and I try to be your friend, and I try to be in your life and try to work, and there's just too much resistance, let that shit go. It's not working. No. Only keep people in your circle. And this doesn't mean to be mean to them or not associated with them at all, but I'm talking about if you really trying to get close to somebody and there's some resistance to them happening, doing it, let that shit go. Only be close to people who care about you, who want to be in your life, who want to hang out with you. Texting a girl and she always got excuses of why she can't hang out with you. Let her go. Hang out with the people that want to hang out with you. Yeah. Like, literally be really, really mindful of how you curate the people in your life, and don't hold on to people who are just negative or dry. They have to love you, and so to me, that's what I
affirm you.
What I would tell young people.
You're gonna have to give this one 2 snaps up in a circle.
So in 2020, you were honored by The Root as one of their influential African Americans. You made the Roots 100 list. You've also been called a sparkling advocate. How does it feel to be honored and to be recognized as a national leader and a trans activist?
It's humbling. It's beautiful. It makes me feel like that bitch. It makes me feel like my work is not in vain. It makes me feel like my work is impactful. It makes me feel like there's many years that I was unsung, that I didn't get the, I've been doing this for 15 years. There's many years that I've been just doing this, just not making no money doing it, but just because I care about my community and I care about the torch that I'm going to pass, and I was passed. And so it just makes me feel good to be acknowledged, not only by queer community, but also like the cishet. That's a cishet publication. Yeah. To be honored by them, that makes me feel special.
She's got a point. She's an icon. She's a legend, and she is the moment. Now, come on.
Would you say that Monica passed you that torch?
I don't consider Monica my elder, even though she's older than me.
Oh.
We came out in '94 at the same time. Oh. And so I don't consider Monica my mentor. I consider her my sister.
Okay.
And so we were teaching each other things. And so I respect her legacy. And so I feel like keeping her legacy alive is what I've been passed. Not necessarily the kind of the community torch, because I feel like we were on the same path at the same time.
Why is positive trans representation important?
So when there's a young person in in despair and hopelessness that this life can give them, they can see some kind of light at the end of the tunnel. That's why. Positive doesn't mean rich or wealthy, good looking, passable. It
Nothing
doesn't
to do
mean
with that.
Nothing to do with that shit. It's about, I had icons in my life who were not anywhere near passable, anywhere near, but they were, I don't want to say her name because I don't want to be disrespectful, but I had a girl from my city. She went to work every day. She was not passable. She would get on the bus and people would read her, but she would go to work every day
and enjoy her life.
And you would come to her house and her house looked clean, decorated to the nines, because she was able to work and she was able to create where she lived in a way that she wanted. And she was an icon to me because I was like, I want to be that. I want to be the lady. I want to be the person who, I have my home. You can say what you want out there, but I have my space. I'm going to be home in a couple hours and be happy. And so she was an icon to me. It's not necessarily being in a movie. It's just, my gay mom is my gay mom because she was a bus driver. She wasn't some superstar. She was a trans woman that was a bus driver. I had never heard of a trans woman as a bus driver. Never heard of it. But she was doing it, passable as hell, looking like Auntie Fish on the bus, rolling it. And I didn't even know she was a trans woman when I used to catch the bus. And when I found out, she just was an icon to me. She was doing something that I had never saw done. A regular, not saying that cis women are the standard, but just being a regular woman, that's what I always wanted to be. And so seeing her do it, I think positive representation just gives you hope. And I think we need hope to get through some of the negative stuff that we got to go through.
And I think this will end it. What is your hope for the future? What is your hope for the future? What are you looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to growing old. I'm looking forward to growing in the love of myself, in the love of my community, in the love of seeing my girls and guys thrive. I'm looking forward to what the non-binary people are doing in regards to their movement. I think it's powerful. I think them shaking up the binary will help trans people, even the ones who are binary, be able to navigate the world a little bit better. Because if you got this trans person like Alok running around with hair on their chest, hair on their legs in a dress, and just living their life, this trans woman who can't afford laser, who might have a little bit of stubble, won't be that big a deal. Do you see what I'm saying? I think it gives room for people who don't live up to the cishet standards of their physical. They still can be a little bit free and treated a little bit different. And I think that's the power of a non-binary experience and the power of them and the work that they're doing now. And so I want to see more of that. Even though I'm a binary girl, I like to be feminist, soft, hairless, and all that kind of stuff. But I see the power in their movement, how it can make people be a little bit more free. I want more connections in cis women and trans women's sisterhood. I want to grow that. I took 12 women to Hawaii in September, and we had a retreat where I'll be releasing the recording soon on my YouTube. And just the sisterhood. I want to see more trans and cis women's sisterhood and us doing work together into dismantling the oppression that's against us. And, I want to grow old. I want to start traveling and get out of this harsh marching work into what you said earlier, where I'm doing it another way and I'm taking my breaks and being an old trans lady. I want to be like Miss Major.
I know what you shared about her and Attica, girl. You shared. I got more. I just got more out of this than what I bargained for. I mean, you gave me some history lessons, honey. Watch
Miss Major, the Major documentary.
The documentary, right?
Yes, it'll teach you some of that too.
And I've been meaning to see it. So this was your a brief bio. Hi, I'm diamondstylz. Pronouns she, her, hers. Producer of Marshasplate podcast, executive director of blacktranswomeninc. Before all that, I used to be a full-time hoe. Now part-time hoe.
That's my Twitter.
That's your Twitter. So
yeah.
I have to ask you this. Now that you're a part-time hoe, what does it feel like to be able to work when you feel like it versus being a full-time hoe?
Yes, I love that. So I'm a girl that you know, I haven't put an ad up since 2009, but some of my old clients still come to me. Some of, if a guy that I meet at the grocery store, he's not really my type, but he's whining and dining me, honey, I might ask him for some money. I might ask him for some rent money. It's a tool in my toolbox that I probably will never, ever, ever let go. But I'm that person where I'm like, no, I'm not a full-time hoe, but, you know, I don't mind, you know, getting a little something for and giving a little something.
Yeah. What was that song by Missy? I'm not a prostitute, but I give you what you want. What was that song?
If you give me what I need, honey.
Something like that. Thank you. This was great. And stay safe and take care.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.